everyday heroes.
Teen helps out blind and deaf passenger on flight. A California teen offered a helping hand when a blind and deaf man aboard an Air Alaska flight needed help communicating. According to CBS News, Clara Daly was flying on an Air Alaska flight with her mom on the way back to California. Shortly after takeoff, a flight attendant made an announcement asking if anyone knew sign language aboard the plane. They said they had a blind and deaf passenger who could only communicate by signing into his hand. Enter Clara, who had been studying American Sign Language. The teen began signing into his hand to help him communicate with flight attendants. According to Clara's mom over a Facebook post, Clara helped him ask for water and inquire how much time was left on the flight. After that, they were just chatting it up. The man's name was Timothy, and he was flying to Portland. Clara and her mom were originally supposed to fly on a direct flight to LA, but had to scramble after that flight was canceled. Guess everything happens for a reason. Brace yourself. Supersonic passenger flights will soon be a reality. A new airliner that boasts supersonic speeds is set to revolutionize air travel once it takes flight in 2023. Boom Technologies' planned supersonic aircraft will have a cruise speed of 1,451 miles per hour, 2.6 times faster than any other airliner. While a flight from New York to London would typically take 7 hours on a commercial flight, the trip would take a little over 3 hours on a supersonic airliner. The Mach 2.2 aircraft will have 55 seats, each priced at about $5,000 for a round-trip ticket. A 1/3 scale prototype called the XB-1 will begin test flights in 2018 to demonstrate and refine the key technologies required for supersonic travel. Unlike the now retired Concorde and its notoriously loud sonic boom, the Boom aircraft will have turbofans for noise reduction and won't be much louder than a normal plane. The company does have some hurdles to face before their project comes to fruition. Supersonic flights are still banned in the US, but with federal laws currently set up for renegotiation, that could soon change. Airbus plane engine falls apart over the Atlantic. An Air France flight en route from Paris to Los Angeles was forced to make a slight detour when one of its engines disintegrated over the Atlantic on Saturday. The Airbus A380 was just east of Greenland carrying 496 passengers and 24 crew members when one of its engines experienced a serious failure. According to passengers, there was a loud boom and then a lot of shaking. Luckily, the fast-acting pilots quickly shut the engine down and were able to stabilize the plane in under 30 seconds. The plane flew for about an hour on 3 engines before arriving at Goose Bay Airport in eastern Canada. 2 777s were eventually sent from Montreal to pick up the passengers and take them the rest of the way to LA. The cause of the engine failure is still unknown and currently being investigated. Southwest plane diverts after a crack appears in the window. Another week, another window issue for Southwest. A Southwest Airlines flight flying from Chicago to Newark on Wednesday morning diverted to Cleveland because of a window crack. The twin-engine Boeing 737 carrying 73 passengers took off from Chicago's Midway International Airport at 9:53 a.m. and descended to 33,000 feet over 20 minutes. According to passenger Linda Hawley, a loud noise was then heard and a large crack appeared in a window. There was no depressurization of the cabin, so oxygen masks were not deployed. The plane then diverted to Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and landed at 10:46 a.m. The aircraft has been taken out of service as investigators try and figure out the cause of the incident. Southwest hasn't been having the best of luck lately. On April 17th, Southwest Flight 1380 was forced to make an emergency landing after an engine blew apart mid-flight, killing 1 passenger. Southwest Airlines flight grounded for flaming wing. A Southwest flight from D-Town to St. Louis was grounded after a passenger happened to notice the wing was on fire right before takeoff. David Fedor was enjoying the back of the plane on Flight 1863 last Thursday when his spider sense started tingling. He heard a loud thud, kind of like landing gear engaging, but when he looked out the window, he saw flames coming from the bottom of the wing. According to Fedor, the flight had about 80 people, but he had the rear mostly to himself. Apparently, no one else noticed the fire, so he got up from his seat and calmly alerted a flight attendant. At first, the flight attendant told him to sit down, but then she came back and saw the flames for herself. She alerted the pilots and they turned the plane back. The passengers got off and then either booked another flight or were given a refund. Southwest did acknowledge there was a fire and, in a statement, said, "While there were no indications of anything abnormal, our mechanics are repairing the aircraft and the plane currently remains in maintenance." Really? No indications of anything abnormal? Bird in cockpit forces Delta flight to turn around. A Hotlanta-bound Delta flight was forced to hang a U-ey after the crew found a bird flying around the cockpit. Before the flight, the pilot happened to see a sparrow board the plane, causing the flight to be delayed as crew and maintenance workers searched for the little feathered fellow. After a delay and an unsuccessful search attempt, the pilot decided to take off. Wouldn't you know it, shortly after the aircraft took off, the sparrow reappeared again in the cockpit, so the pilot decided to turn the plane back around. After getting back to Detroit Metro Airport, crews were finally able to grab the little guy and get him off the plane. In the end, after a considerable delay, the flight eventually made its way down to Atlanta. No word on what airline the sparrow ended up taking.